Hey y'all, Blake's got a brand new jacket. Ha! Okay. I'll stop trying to channel my inner Jim Carrey now. I think my jacket looks cool though. It doesn't have much flair as Eggman's, but hey, I like it. Anyway, back to the video. What's up everybody? This is your boy Blake, your proud chief of the Blue Blurs, presenting you with another Sonic video. For this video, we're going to be analyzing the trailer for a Sonic movie sequel that was shared during the Game Awards at the end of last year. Yeah, I know, this is something I promised you that I would do for a while now, but I never got around to it because we all got caught up in discussions over Sonic Frontiers. Out of all the pieces of Sonic media heading our way this year, Sonic Frontiers may be the most anticipated, as it is the next mainline Sonic game that promises to take the Sonic franchise through open world styles of gameplay as evidenced by the debut trailer itself. Although, I'd say the Sonic movie sequel is definitely up there with what fans are looking forward to the most. With the success of the first movie, it was definitely a given that a sequel would be headed our way, and in comparison to the first movie, which simply laid out the groundwork for Sonic's life on Earth as well as his rivalry with Robotnik, better known as Eggman, the second movie will be drawing much more on the lore established by the Sonic series. We all know the lore isn't exactly the strongest point about the Sonic series as it's all over the place, but there's definitely room for consistency here and there, like with the classics for example, and in essence, the adventure games. Actually, with these movies taking place on Earth, it allows Paramount a lot of leverage to draw upon the lore established by the Adventure series, and you can see adventure references all over the place when you see the trailer. I'm looking forward to talking about these, as well as throwing in my own piece of speculation on what we can possibly look forward to from the movie itself. So, without further ado, let's dive into the trailer for the Sonic movie sequel.
Here we go!
To start with, the trailer opens with a look at what I can only assume is our San Francisco from the first movie or another major city. If we're being technical, the movie was shot across both British Columbia, Canada and the Hawaiian Islands, so chances are that's Vancouver we're looking at, but for fictional purposes we're treating it as something else. I'm also assuming it's San Francisco because apart from Green Hills, Montana, it's the only other location Sonic has traveled to in the first movie, but obviously he's going to be expanding his horizons in the sequel, so I'm pretty sure we'll get a look at other cities as well. Without a doubt, many of you were expecting a Sonic 2-esque movie just like me when the sequel was announced, instead of Sonic Adventure the movie. But from how the trailer opens up, that's clearly what we're getting because come on, there's references to it everywhere. You should probably get used to hearing the word Sonic Adventure a lot throughout this video for that exact reason. Like come on, the signs are all there. The police cars down the street, Sonic standing on top of a building at nighttime, snacking on a chili dog, stretching, and then jumping down the streets himself to chase off after criminals. Because according to Tom Wachowski, his now adoptive father after the events of the first movie, he's getting called out for pretending to be Batman, or as Sonic himself says, Blue Justice trademark pending. Hey, yo, somebody need to draw up the concept for a Blue Justice costume and make a Sonic mod based on it. That needs to happen right now. Just, don't make it look anything like The Flash, and you might avoid copyright issues. Judging by Sonic's conversation with Tom out of the lake in Green Hills, we can see that Sonic has clearly been emboldened by his victory over Robotnik in the first movie, and he's now leading a double life of sorts. On one hand, he's living as a loving resident of Green Hills, raised by his now adoptive mother and father, Daddy, and Tom, two of the supporting characters you may remember from the first film. And in addition, it's apparent that Sonic has begun his evolution into the cool-spirited hero that he's been known to be since the games. But as director Jeff Fowler himself says, one story alone does not make you into a superhero, which means Sonic is definitely going to be tested in the sequel. I really like what was done with Sonic's character development since the first movie. If you'll remember, Sonic had a heart-to-heart with Tom during their road trip to San Francisco while they're on the run from Eggman. Sonic learns that Tom is headed to San Francisco, for good, to further his career as a cop while leaving behind his home in Green Hills, Montana. And when Sonic realizes this, he calls Tom out on it. When you think back to his backstory, you can see the reason that Sonic's so fierce about the subject. He's been on the run for all his life, ever since the echidna tried to attack on him at Longclaw over at Green Hill Zone itself, and ever since then, Sonic has had to jump from world to world just to hide from everybody, while giving up his home every time. Obviously, Sonic has had enough of this, and now, he wants to protect what matters the most to him, and to everyone else, so they don't have to go through the same cycle of injustice over and over again. This definitely plays into his evolution as the hero that we've known him to be in the games, and I for one, love how the movie universe approaches this development. It's awesome. There's also the fact that Tom and Maddie are now basically Sonic's adoptive parents on Earth. I'm really curious to see how their dynamic will unfold at the beginning of the sequel, as they struggle to adjust to their new life in Green Hills, while helping Sonic to stay grounded and figure out what it is that he wants out of life, as any loving family would help their children to do. I also have to wonder where they stand on Sonic's heroic antics. Likely they have a strong approval rating, especially after the first conflict with Robotnik, but judging by Tom's heart-to-heart with Sonic out of the lake in Green Hills, he might not be entirely in favor of it, it's sounding like. At least, that's what I think anyway. But I also said beginning of the sequel for a reason. They are supporting characters, but ultimately not the stars of the show. That honor goes to Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman. Given how this next movie is going to be leaning heavily on the game lore, we should probably expect to see the spotlight shift over to Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman for the majority of the sequel. Which makes sense to do, but at the same time, I hope the supporting characters don't get discarded entirely, as that would suck. Especially given the parental role that Tom and Maddie will be playing in Sonic's life. Now that I'm bringing Tom and Maddie up, I feel bad for barely referencing them at all in my last few videos I made about the sequel, though those have been few and far in between, so that's not really saying much. They're fresh additions to the Sonic universe, but I really come to enjoy the roles played by these supporting characters, especially with how significant they are to Sonic's family life. And I hope that they will stay around the long haul, especially if there's another movie to come after the sequel, which I think there will be, judging by how well the first film did. And what the second movie's promising? Yeah, we should probably prepare ourselves for a Sonic cinematic trilogy. God, that would be awesome. But let's not get ahead of ourselves now. Either way, my sincerest apologies go out to all Tom and Maddie fans out there, and I promise to do better going forward. Then we shift gear from Sonic Adventure to Sonic Drift, when Sonic hijacks the ambulance and attempts to drive it to safety as best as he possibly can. You know, now I'm referencing Sonic Drift, that might explain why Sonic somewhat knew how to drive in the first movie. If you ever get in with your Uber driver, make sure you give him a 5-star rating. As the ruckus unfolds, one of the criminals drops what looks like an explosive canister into the sewer system, resulting in an explosion of water from underneath the streets, in the form of geysers. If that doesn't remind you of one Sonic game in particular, you need to go back and play more games. That said, you probably shouldn't get your hopes up about seeing any Godzilla-sized bosses during the movie, because I believe the sequel is meant to be an escalation of the conflict between Sonic and Eggman. So it would be a little odd to hand a spotlight off to someone other than Eggman for being the big bad. If they're gonna do that, they should probably save it for a future film, which again I find likely to happen. Also, anybody know the skateboard Sonic was playing around with at Tom's house? The design on the underside of it looks vaguely familiar. We might have seen that somewhere before, right? But I had to ask, why is he wearing a toga and a lamp on his head? I hope you at least include a tuxedo in your wardrobe, because then it would make the Sonic Symphony canon. There's more I could add to the list of Sonic Adventure Easter egg that I spotted, but let's put that on hold for now. Because next, I want to shift topics and talk about the return of Dr. Eggman. I don't think the trailer ever made it clear as to how Eggman escaped from the mushroom world that he was banished to in the first movie. The most that we see is his escape pod dropping from a satellite in space, and then it lands on the Earth later on, revealing Eggman clad in his brand new attire, and our first look at his Badnik army, complete with buzz bombs and what I can only assume are Orbinauts, but without the spike that they're known to have around their bodies. Could be wrong though, that's just my guess. I gotta ask though, where did Eggman get all the materials to make his Badnik army? Like, how did he figure that out while he was banished? He wasn't on Earth that entire time, so bruh? The extent of his genius I may not be able to fully grasp. And yes, Papa's got a brand new stash. One that makes him look far more reminiscent of the Mad Doctor. I have to say, when Jim Carrey first hit the set as Eggman, I was skeptical. But later on, his portrayal of the character won me over big time. You can tell when an actor is fully embracing the role given to them, and well, this much is obvious, but Jim Carrey knows how to give life to characters. I'm really excited to see what he does with Eggman in the sequel. As for how Eggman made his return to Earth, well, the trailer didn't exactly go into any detail on that, did it? Apart from his discovery of the Master Emerald. And yes, to settle the debate once and for all, that is the Master Emerald you've seen in the trailer. It's been confirmed by Jeff Fowler himself. But given the size change it has apparently undergone, I don't blame anybody who thought it might be a Chaos Emerald instead. But it's not the first time we've seen this phenomenon. If you'll remember in Sonic Adventure 2, the Master Emerald started out looking as gigantic as ever, but during the last story, Knuckles is seen carrying it in the palm of his hand, having shrunk to the size of a Chaos Emerald. How exactly it works like that, I don't know, but Sega never was known for clarifying things all that well, so we just went along with it. When you're a Sonic fan, it's really all that you can do. So it's not too far out there to see the Master Emerald undergoing a similar change for the movie, and it was probably essential for the sake of the plot. It also would not have made any sense for it to be anything other than Master Emerald, because if Knuckles is involved, why would there just be a Chaos Emerald? The Chaos Emeralds were around before Knuckles was ever a thing, so if that change had ever occurred, it would have thrown things out of balance, that's for sure. So it obviously had to be the Master Emerald. That said, I would not discount the existence of the Chaos Emeralds just yet. The two have been shown to be connected to one another since the events of Sonic Adventure, and there's no reason for them not to have that connection again. But although the Master Emerald has been confirmed to be a thing, I don't know if that alone is enough evidence to suggest that Super Sonic, Super Tails, or Super Knuckles will be involved, as much as I would like to see them be a thing, and I'm sure I'm not alone there. But from watching the trailer, nothing about it suggests anything of the sort at all, except for one detail that I took notice of. You guys might remember that clip where we see a tornado forming over a green hills with green energy swirling around inside of it. More than likely an after effect of the Master Emerald's power, and that may be a sign of things escalating between Sonic and Eggman. Chances are he might be going supersonic while inside a tornado, assuming he actually goes inside of it at all. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know, I'm just guessing here. But speaking of which, this leads me to two more Sonic Adventure references. I guess now we're turning Green Hills into Windy Valley because of a tornado? Is that what's going on? And then there's the inclusion of the gun troops. You don't see any of their helicopters like what was spotted during on-set screen leaks from last year, but you do see their badges pinned across their chests. This more than makes up for the lack of a Sonic Adventure 2 styled intro like what I was hoping to see at the beginning of the movie, but instead we got an Adventure 1 intro, which is more than good enough for me. Well, at least in the trailer. I don't know if they'll open the movie in the exact same fashion, but you never know. And along with Eggman, Agent Stone is making a resurgence. And you know something? I'm okay with this. What's a villain without a co-villain to back him up, right? But when the reunion happened, I wonder if you guys noticed anything about the restaurant that Agent Stone was running. In particular, the menu items listed behind him. He was clearly running a makeshift Starbucks based on Mean Bean Machine. I mean, you saw what the menu items were called, right? If not, you need to go back to that clip and give it another look. If you were paying attention to the on-set leaks from last year, you will have already known that this will be a thing. But there's something about seeing it in a trailer that has a charm to it that I simply can't put into words. After that touching Mean Bean Machine reference in Sonic Mania, whenever I see it pop up again, man, it brings a tear to my eye. Okay, now let's circle back to the topic about the tornado forming over a Green Hills, as that's where Tails makes his first appearance. And if you watch that scene, you might be comparing it to the post-credit scene from the first movie, and you'd be right, they're basically the exact same. That suggests to me that the post-credit scene was meant to serve as a tie-in to the events of the sequel, and that Paramount already had their plans for a sequel locked in after finishing the first movie, even before it attracted any sort of box office success. If that's the case, then man, Paramount was making quite a number of Chad moves, but obviously their confidence would be justified, and now we're getting a sequel. That is awesome, man. Anyway, it's around that time with Tails' first meet with Sonic, but here's where things get a little confusing. Sonic didn't recognize Tails after he jumped aboard the tornado. So what the heck? What's up with that? That's actually their first meeting? I assumed they'd actually met briefly before the events of the first movie, but evidently Paramount's taking a different direction. So then, the he that Tails was referring to in the post-credits scene. Who was he referring to exactly? Was it Sonic? Or was he actually tracking Eggman's energy signature, so he was talking about Eggman? Whichever it is, I'm confused and need an answer to this, like, now! Either way, Sonic and Tails quickly get acquainted with one another, and then they take to the skies above Green Hills for their fight against Eggman. Now, when Eggman sends out the missile to disorient Sonic and Tails and throw the tornado for a loop, we got a brief glimpse of the machine he was firing them from, but not really enough of it to get a good enough hint as to what it might be. Like, I at first thought it might be the Death Egg, but I don't know, it doesn't look imposing enough for that to be the case. And that thing is like the size of a Death Star, so I hope they didn't shrink it down in size, as that would make it less imposing. And speaking of the Death Egg, if the Master Emerald is involved, I have to assume that it will be factored into the sequel at some point. But then, given all the adventure references, they might instead go the route of the Egg Carrier. That would be exciting to see too. But nah, I'm hoping for the Death Egg to be a thing instead, because then it would allow for tons of Death Star jokes from Sonic. I mean, we already got an Obi-Wan Kenobi joke from the Longclaw scene at the opening in the first movie, so it's only appropriate, right? And Sonic. The tornado clearly had two seats, yet you choose to stand on top of it instead. What is wrong with you? You were just asking to get bodied in that scene. Like, I'm sorry, Sonic, but you had it coming to you. But that's Sonic for you. What are you gonna do? As we head into the final 30 seconds of the trailer, it starts rapidly jumping between scenes at a pace that leaves us with little to no time to understand what's going on. But we do get a couple of good looks at what appears to be a dangerous underground area riddled with traps. First we see Sonic running along a wall, then we see Eggman nearly getting his mustache sawed off. Ouch, that would have put a damper on the Egghead's mood real quickly, wouldn't it? My first impressions are this might be the Mystic Ruins in the Sonic Adventure, but then, with all the references that we've been getting up until now, of course that would be the first thing that comes to mind. It might actually be another Sonic stage with similar characteristics that simply hasn't occurred to me yet. I don't know. But you know, it's funny that I should bring up the Mystic Ruins. Another clip we see in the montage near the end is a brief look at an island showing up from beneath the sea, and Sonic standing just outside of it, presumably after running on water. The structures on the island suggest that this could be from the Mystic Ruins as well, but if you'll remember from playing Sonic Adventure, Angel Island is basically connected to the Mystic Ruins, at least when it's not airborne, so in other words, they're one and the same. And given that hints of the Echidna tribe's history can be found in the Mystic Ruins, I'm guessing they decided to combine the two. But the island we see is actually Angel Island, but it contains more hints that directly reference the history of the Echidna tribe, which would make perfect sense in my book. This is where I want to ask. We see Eggman in possession of the Master Emerald, whereas Knuckles, not so much. So what happened here? Did Eggman manage to sweet talk Knuckles into outright giving him the Master Emerald, under the guise of protecting it? Did they make some kind of arrangement, or did Eggman actually steal the emerald, and Knuckles simply hasn't realized it until later on in the movie? I'm more inclined to believe it's the second theory because yeah, something's definitely going on here. Obviously we know Knuckles is being played, but the question is how does he come to his realization that he's being played? Guess we won't know till the movie actually drops. Alright, we've gone long enough without acknowledging the best part of the trailer itself. So let's stop beating around the bush and talk about the man of the hour. Knuckles the Echidna. His design, everything I could ever have dreamed for it to be. Right down to the last detail is definitely the same Knuckles that you'd easily recognize from the games. He even kept the white crescent-shaped mark on his chest, which I initially feared they would have removed based on the model of Knuckles we'd seen from the onset leaks last year, but they're keeping it. Although they seem to have added in a lightning effect to his fist. Like, seriously, what's up with the fixation of lightning effects and Sonic characters? Is Tails gonna have lightning across his tails too? Pun not intended, of course. I don't know what's up with that. At this point, we're gonna have multiple Thunder Gods running around Earthrealm challenging everybody to Mortal Kombat. Let's not misunderstand one another though. The lightning effects look super cool, and I certainly don't mind them being shared across multiple Sonic characters, instead of being specific to one like I initially thought would be the case. As for Knuckles' design, what's flawed about it exactly? I literally cannot find anything wrong with it. But when you put work like this in the hands of Tyson Hesse, You can only expect good things from that man. I believe it was he who handled the design for Sonic in the first movie, and likewise for Tails. Speaking of their designs, it's been pointed out that they've been changed up for the sequel. Sonic is mostly the same as he is, of course, but certainly nothing major enough to warrant a design overhaul like was the case with the first movie. There have been some slight changes here and there, which are more noticeable when you look at the close-up of Sonic in his confrontation with Knuckles, but other than that, he's pretty much the same. As for Tails, he did get a more noticeable adjustment. The bangs on his head are more distinct for one, and then there's the change in his color, where he's a brighter gold yellow as opposed to being more like Adventure the Sonic the Hedgehog Tails, who had the more brownish gold fur. I am so glad I got the opportunity to make an Adventure the Sonic reference in this video, bruh. That cartoon brings back the fondest of memories. But yeah, nothing significant was done whatsoever to the designs of Tails and Sonic as we knew them in the first movie, and then again, Tails only made a cameo, so I would think they'd definitely be considering change to his design, however minor they might be. As for Knuckles, that one is completely flawless, man. Knuckles looks so flippin' good. I just wish we got to see more of him in the trailer, but he's obviously meant to be the biggest surprise of the sequel, next to the evolution of Dr. Eggman's insanity. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of him when the movie drops. Ben Schwartz is back as Sonic, this we know already. And they've also gone on to keep Colleen O'Shaughnessy on board as the voice of Tails after her cameo in the first movie. She's always done a great job voicing the character since her casting in Sonic Boom, and it's great to see that Paramount and Sega are keeping a familiar voice around for the sake of a sequel. That's awesome. And then, there is the voice behind the Echidna, Idris Elba. Though I'm not familiar with his work, apart from what I barely touched upon in my video about him, he sold me on his portrayal of Knuckles in the trailer alone. And if I'm saying something that bold before the movie has even dropped, I think you can take this as a sign that good things are headed our way. And what makes this even better is that when Idris Elba was first cast as Knuckles, he made a determined effort to learn everything that there was to know about the character from start to finish. Then again, when you consider the lore in the games for Knuckles, it's largely scattered. About the only line of consistency you'll find goes as far as the classic and the adventure games, but that's about it, especially concerning his origin story with Angel Island and the Master Emerald. And for Idris to want to dig deep and learn everything there was to know about the character, that further enhanced my confidence in his possession of the role. I honestly cannot remember the last time I've been this excited to see Knuckles in any piece of Sonic media. For the longest time now, he felt largely disconnected from the character he'd originated as during the Sonic Classics and then the Sonic Adventure series. Nowadays, he's a character whose stupidity has become largely exaggerated, much more so than it ever needed to be. Yes, he's gullible and sometimes not the smartest thing in the world, but not to the extent that he's lately been known for. And it was very disheartening. It was like Sega had forgotten what was so central to Knuckles' character, what made Knuckles, Knuckles. But now, the Sonic movie sequel is set to restore him to his former position of glory. Knuckles is becoming an interesting character once again, and although I wouldn't say Knuckles is my #1 favorite character in the series, he was definitely up there, and I'm happy to see him being shown the proper treatment that is long overdue. Actually, I take back something I said earlier. We shouldn't call this Sonic Adventure the movie, we should call this Knuckles in Sonic 2 the movie. A blatant reference to when you could connect the Sonic and Knuckles lock-on cartridge to Sonic 2, so you could play as Knuckles in a game other than Sonic 3. The existence of this concept alone is largely what debunked fans' concerns about Knuckles showing up possibly a little too early in the Sonic cinematic storyline. Sonic 3 is typically regarded as his origin point rather than Sonic 2, so for them to be changing things up in this fashion definitely confused some people, but I think this should clarify things much better. Now to address the other elephant in the room. The unpleasant history between Sonic and Knuckles. If you'll remember from the first film, Sonic and Longclaw were attacked by the Echidna tribe and then separated from one another. And now, Sonic is face to face with a member of the very same tribe responsible for his separation from Longclaw, Knuckles the Echidna. There's definitely going to be a grudge match in the works between the two. You even hear it in Sonic's dialogue with Knuckles. Face it, you're never going to get my powers. Word for word, this is a quote that came directly from Sonic. The question is though, how does he intend to keep up with Knuckles? As evidenced by the trailer, Knuckles' brute strength is a little more than Sonic can handle at the time. He's gonna need a lot more of his speed to keep up with this guy. Their confrontation won't nearly be so straightforward as it was in Sonic 3, and frankly, I'm excited at how far they're gonna take this matchup. As far as how Tails and Knuckles see one another though, no comment on that because no such interactions have happened in the trailer. Now here's where things get a bit confusing. Knuckles expresses that he has no interest in Sonic's powers, and why would he if he can just hold Sonic in place while he's spin dashing like a boss? Seriously bro, that was easily the best selling point of the trailer, or at least among them. But, I gotta ask, why would Knuckles go after Sonic exactly? What's up with that? Oh wait, I bet we have Eggman to thank for that. He's known where Sonic lives since his first run-in with Tom Wachowski, and I'd also bet that he fed Knuckles the lie that Sonic was after the Master Emerald, which would in turn motivate Knuckles to go after Sonic, rather than trying to acquire his powers like Sonic suspected. If anything, that's more a goal that would be in line with Eggman's agenda, and maybe the remainder of the Echidna tribe, but who knows what happened to them if Knuckles is the only one out and about these days. Could this also mean a potential encounter between Knuckles and his own tribe? The more I think about this, the more I can't sleep at night. Now, this may be a little out of order, but I think that Sonic will meet with Knuckles first and then Tails. Knuckles himself isn't necessarily a villain, but right now, he's working with Eggman. So this would help to establish the big bads of the story, all the better. But when Sonic meets with Tails, he doesn't know him according to their exchange in dialogue. But it'll be a time of the utmost convenience as Sonic's battle with Eggman will really be taking off. In my head, it just makes more sense, but I could be wrong. Before I close this video out, I realized I skipped ahead of a couple of things to get to the scene with Knuckles, so let's go back to those real quick. First of all, back to when Eggman nearly gets his mustache sawed off by the bladesaw. Is that Longclaw's face on the middle of the blade? What is that doing there exactly? You don't think that Longclaw is somehow gonna get referenced again in the sequel? Is that actually possible? Will she and Sonic actually meet up again? Seriously? I'm getting breathless just thinking about it. I really hope that happens. And for her symbol to be there, maybe the structure that Eggman is in actually has more ties to Longclaw than, say, Angel Island, the Mystic Ruins, anything like that? I don't know, that was a startling detail to take notice of for sure. Next up, this looks vaguely familiar. Is this not the same bar that Sonic and Tom stopped by on their way to San Francisco, and then they had to leave since Sonic caused a ruckus here? What on earth would possess Sonic to go back here? And bringing Tails along too? He's underage! So is Sonic for that matter, he's like 15, right? But still, this scene was worth it because come on, you cannot look at Tails in this getup and tell me that he doesn't look adorable, like you just want to hug him and tell him that everything will be okay. Yo man, I wanted to comfort him so bad when he passed out. Why would you scare Tails like that? That's a sin against humanity. But this leads me to the final scene to be covered in the trailer. And that's when Sonic and Tails are seen scrapping with Eggman over at an ice-capped mountain. And yes, we're calling it the ice cap zone before you even dare to pop the question. What exactly would give Eggman any reason to go there is anybody's guess. The trailer fails to make that clear. But then, he's already been shown to be in possession of the Master Emerald upon his return to Earth. Could it be possible that he's also after the Chaos Emeralds? The servers are the 7 Chaos after all, and they would go a long ways in amplifying the Master Emerald's power, like what is seen in Sonic 3. Still though, the trailer doesn't make that clear, so I can only guess, but whatever the reason, Sonic and Tails are bent on putting him down. That action sequence where Sonic catches that missile and throws it back at his mechs, bro, your boy's got style points. Perhaps the reason both Sonic and Tails ended up at the same bar we've seen in the first movie is that when they were fighting Eggman, things went awry, and they needed a way to shake him off so he wouldn't catch up to them. That's about the only valid line of reason I can think of as to why they would be there in the first place. That, and even hedgehogs and foxes had to stay warm too, you know. That snowstorm was looking super rough, bro. Yo, I don't know if I should be relieved that this trailer announced this video is over because I don't often do videos like these, or if I should be sad that it's finished. Because I don't know, you couldn't tell, but your boy is super stoked with this movie to come out, and I've been rewatching this trailer frame by frame after it dropped. So I'd like to hope that I didn't miss a single detail. If I did, then I should be deeply ashamed of myself. But yeah, I don't often do videos of this type, so I'm expecting this one to be a little rough around the edges. But days of work went into this, so hopefully that balances things out to a degree. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it, as that really does matter to me, and if you did enjoy it, let me know your feedback with those likes and comments down below. And also let me know if you're as excited for the movie as I am, maybe even more than me, or if you're actually feeling worried about how the movie's gonna turn out. Let me know your feedback, I'm always curious to know. Until then, I will see you in my next video, whenever that goes up. Until then, take care, and don't forget, blue blurs for life! Later.